I didn't touch them.
That's the center line. Yeah, that's right.
It's right there.
And don't.
Funny, that's why he's been walking with Ziploc bags since.
We're talking about. What crime can I solve? Yeah.
Counselor, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. John, how about yourself?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Oh, they got 3 minutes. What?
Well, no, what it is, I'm talking about personnel policies.
Well, there you
again.
go.
You're not gonna have a quorum.
Yep.
I heard.
Nope.
Quorum.
There they are. That's right. We got a quorum and we got our lawyer. So
And we have our other guest.
Counselor, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm on mute.
Jeff? Yeah, counselor and counselor.
Good evening.
I haven't seen that style before. Might be able to market that. Hi.
Good evening. How are you? Good.
Firefighters. I was looking for owls. We're gonna send a quick note. I liken it to he's father and husband, that he gets too, engrossed in these responsibilities,
bring the kids.
told him that before.
Kids had to have their.
I like it.
I really do. First, everyone listening, really.
Your shoe habits.
So we have a quorum and it's 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we will begin with our land acknowledgement statement. The Chinookan peoples known as the Clackamas and Cascades are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas of the High Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity, and we are honored to be guests upon these lands. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
republic for which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will open the floor for citizen comment on non-agenda items. Greg, did any comment come from? Greg's checking on something. Oh, the lapel mic, that's right.
Yep.
No public
No
comments.
comments.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Then we'll close the floor for citizen comment on non-agenda items. And pause here while Greg gets the lapel mic, because apparently hearing me. Right. I have a habit of turning away from the mic, so we solve that by pinning the mic to me. This anyway, because we're gonna go out in the audience here because we have a very distinct honor tonight. On our agenda is, I'm not sure. Oh, that's why I was yelling, because I didn't turn. All right. So this is an opportunity that we've not had very often. And this is to make a presentation of a public safety award. And here with us tonight to make the award is our Police Chief Ryan Hackla and Multnomah County Under Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell. And we have the person that we want to bestow this award on, Danny Krogan. And Danny, this certificate is awarded on the 25th day of January 2022 in recognition of your courage to report criminal activity. This courage, as well as awareness of your surroundings, is a key component to keeping our community safe. It takes a strong relationship and teamwork between the community and law enforcement to work together. Because of this courage and willingness to keep your city and community safe, we recognize you with a certificate of gratitude in public safety. We hereby officially thank you for your courage and your service to the city of Wood Village and its residents, businesses, and guests. And this is signed by me, the mayor of Wood Village, Oregon, and our police chief, Ryan Hackla. Both Chief Hackla and Under Sheriff Nicole Morrissey would like to say some things.
Yes.
To the plaque, we'd also like to give you what we sort of call the Taste of Wood Village. So in here is a gift certificate for Wood Village Burrito, for Vitae, for the new Bellagio's Pizza, and for Buffalo Wild Wings. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All's good, yeah.
How's everyone?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Oh, there you go.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Village burrito is my favorite. Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. Glad we had the opportunity to do that. And so-
Mayor, I gotta ask a question. Was that one specific act or was it an accumulation of?
It was one specific act. It was something where we can't really talk in details
Right.
because of the incident. It was one where a simple act of noticing something led to a much larger discovery.
Good.
And that's where, that encouraging, if you see something suspicious, always call it in. If it's nothing, fantastic.
Yeah, excellent.
But
Well,
you
that's
never know when it might be something. And this
glad
was
we,
something.
got a chance to recognize him. Did we learn about his call in through 9/11?
I got it directly from the chief on this
Chief, okay.
particular incident.
Good.
I can probably provide some additional detail offline.
No, I don't need additional details. I was just curious if it was.
All right. So next up then is agenda item number 3. And this is a update, a new presentation from Mount Hood Community College with College President, Dr. Lisa Scari, and College Board Member, Kenny Polson.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear us okay?
Nope, we're turning the volume up now.
Okay.
And we'll bring you a lapel mic for next time.
Well,
Okay, try
hopefully
again.
next time.
Still a little too quiet.
Okay.
We're moving you up to 11. Try again.
How is it now?
Perfect. Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, and let's hope next year when we do this, we're actually joining you and sitting in person. That would be my hope. But anyway, yes, I'll start off briefly. My name is Lisa Scari. I'm proud to be the president of Mount Hood Community College, and I am currently in my 3rd year. In July, I'll completed my 4th year, I guess. So I'm in my 3.5 years. And it's been a pleasure. It's been an interesting time, which I'll speak to a little bit. But I would like to also turn it over to my colleague and board member, Kenny Polson. Kenny, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Kenny Polson here, board member. I've been a member for the past 7 years, and needless to say, there's been a lot of changes and some very, very exciting changes. Very happy to share them with you as we move forward in our presentation. Lisa.
Thank you. So I'm going to do a share screen here and got a few slides. There we go. So to start off, good evening, Mayor Hardin and members of the Wood Village City Council and staff. It's our pleasure to be here tonight, and I really appreciate this opportunity to present to you again. Last year was our 1st year, and I said we would be back, and so we're happy to be here. As like you, I'm sure you've experienced an interesting year, right? We do a couple steps forward and then a step back, and we kind of do this back and forth motion. I kind of wanted to share a little bit about where the college is right now and how we're navigating it, but also, despite the pandemic, some amazing accomplishments that have happened as a result of our faculty and staff and board, and a little bit of kind of what we're looking to on the horizon. So this year marks our 55th year that Mount Hood has been serving the community. And if you think about it, I'm sure all of you were too young for this, but from the strawberry fields of the 60s to now, we're one of the largest community colleges in the state. We're incredibly proud of the impact we've had, both not only on Gresham, Wood Village, Fairview, East County, and Sandy, but also the broader impact that our students and our employees have had on this region. Currently, there we go. We are, because it always seems to be a popular question, kind of, where are things? We're about 40% of our courses in person. So we have seen a return to campus. Most of that is in the career and technical ed programs and in our basic skills programs. We still have a fair number of our transfer courses online. And a lot of that's to do with, that's what the students are asking for. And we're in this wonderful spot of actually trying to get that perfect balance figured out, where the students who want the flexibility with online, we're accommodating them, and the students who enjoy the face-to-face in person, we have enough offerings there to support them in their career goals. One of the things that is a little bit that we haven't returned to is kind of that external facility use. Our pool is still closed, and our hope is to have that open this summer. Some of this has been due to staffing shortages. I don't know if you're experiencing them in the city as well. But we're having especially a hard time with part-time work because folks are able to get some high-paying jobs. And I think that's also impacting our enrollment a bit. And speaking of enrollment, we are down. I think our decline since 2016 is about 30%. But we're not the only ones. All of our sister institutions in the state and actually across the country have also seen this drop of enrollment. And a lot of it's to do with the pandemic and the fact that we serve some of the more vulnerable students, right? Less affluent, students of color, first generation. I mean, that's who we strive to serve. And unfortunately, we're seeing these populations not show up as much in higher ed. So we continue to work at it though, and figure out how we can support them. And I'll share a little something later. That said, dual enrollment or dual credit, which is when we partnered with the high schools and we have the instructors actually teaching to our college level course outcomes. And students who pass the class actually get the college credit. This has been incredibly stable, and we're actually seeing it grow in some areas, which from our vantage point is a great thing, right? Because it's a extremely wise investment of taxpayer money, because we're only paying for those credits once. So we're continuing to work this, and it's also helping us get better alignment with our school districts. Also, you may not know, we've got a very strong apprenticeship program, like over 6,000 apprentices last year. We work with 16 different training centers, and this is an area that continues to expand for us. And again, it's a different way. You may not think of it always that the community college is in this space, but I'm just so proud of our folks because they're doing it and they're doing it well. Related to who we're serving, I've got charts here showing kind of how our diversity is changing. And I'm sure much like what you're seeing in the city, we're seeing the diversity increase. And most significantly this last year, we saw it even with the pandemic and some of the losses in enrollments, increases in our Hispanic community, our multiracial, and you'll also see in our Caucasian population. I do want to point out part of this is due to we've done a better job of getting students to declare. You'll notice the big difference here. We were 32 last year and we're down to 22%. But this is what we're looking on at kind of the face. And there's been a fair amount of initiatives that we've done in the classroom, on campus, and even at the policy level with the board. And they've worked really hard the last 18 months on developing an equity statement and really guiding the college in the direction to center our work in equity. And as a result, the board received some recognition, and I would like to turn it over to Board Member Polson to talk a little bit about that award.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. Is that a yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, I want to start out by telling you that when I joined the board, when I was elected to the board 7 years ago, the college had a lot of work to do in terms of equity and inclusion. In fact, even the board had a lot of work to do in terms of equity, inclusion. And you're looking at the one member of color who was there 7 years ago. As a result of all the hard work and all the changes that's been happening with the board since I arrived, I can truly say for the first time, the board looks like the students, the diversity of the students that we serve, which is a beautiful thing. And as a result, it's a lot easier for us to focus on the work that needs to happen, that has happened at the college. And as a result of all the work that we've done in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we were recognized by the Association of Community Colleges and Trustees on a regional level, which is the whole West Coast of the United States. And then we also earned the distinction of the Equity Award for all of the United States, which is great. So right now we could say we're number one. And along with those bragging rights does come responsibilities, and we are still working to make things even better. So I'm very proud of the work that the college has done, very proud of the work that our president, Lisa Scari, Dr. Scari, has done. And we're looking forward to raise the bar even higher. So we're very happy to share this information with you, and we implore you to come and check out, see what we have to offer in terms of equity and inclusion at Mount Hood Community College. Thank you. Dr. Scari.
Thank you, Kenny.
Mhm.
So also in addition to the advancing equity, the board has 4 goals for the institution, and I wanted to just touch on a couple things that have happened that I think are significant. The first goal around increasing student success. Earlier this year, Mount Hood Community College sent in an application to award a applied baccalaureate degree in cybersecurity. We are one of the first, or one of 2 colleges that are actually in this process, and potentially being the first in the state to offer these 4-year degrees. We have our program application into the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, and hopefully we'll get an approval from them in the coming months. We then would need to get approval from our accrediting body and the U.S. Department of Education. But if all goes well, our plan is by fall of 2024, we would be opening this program. And the significance is it would be a 4-year degree in East County for our community. And these are really geared toward career and technical areas. And we're hoping it will launch kind of a group of a couple that make sense, that align with the employment needs of our community. But also our goal is to have that 4-year option in our community, so our students, whether they're right out of high school or older, don't need to leave East County. And we know that there are plenty of jobs around cybersecurity in this area. So we're excited to see where that goes. The second one is around advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've opened an office of student basic needs. And I know later in the agenda, the mayor is going to talk about a homelessness forum. And I believe our new director of basic needs may have attended one of those meetings earlier this week or last week. But we really believe that a student can come to class, but if they're hungry, they don't have a stable home environment, they don't have childcare, they don't have transportation, right? It makes it really hard. And so this office is focused on those holistic needs and keeping the students in so they can not only progress, but also complete. Strengthening our community engagement, the college received a $5 million Department of Labor grant, and we're the lead institution, and this is to advance both cybersecurity and advanced manufacturing training across the state. And the eventual outcome will be online courses that can be, if somebody's got internet, we can be disseminating them across the state. And it's really trying to build up that cyber and manufacturing employment core. And then lastly, on improving operations, the college or the board actually launched a strategic planning effort. And so we are doing a full-scale look at who we are and where we want to go in the next 5 years. And I think you might have already seen the survey that went out, but I'm going to drop it in the chat if I can. If anyone hasn't taken it and would like to, we want your input. But the goal is really that this will kind of point the direction of where we're going in the next 5 years. And with that, have measurable outcomes so that we can also be reporting on our progress. Just this year, I wanted to kind of bring it back again. I know last year we shared this. This past year, we had 30 Wood Village residents as students, with the majority of those being in our credit classes. In addition, we have 5 employees that live in your city. Our partnerships continue much like last year. In workforce development, our work with WorkSource Gresham continues. And they've moved to their new facility in Rockwood, but because of the pandemic have also gotten pretty good at offering some online services. Our SBDC continues to support small business, and at last count, I think we were at 7 businesses in Wood Village. And then lastly, Reynolds School District, that partnership continues to be strong. I mentioned the dual credit, and we're looking at more options within Reynolds to help those students out. So that's a real quick rundown, kind of what's going on at the college. And I would like to pause now and see if there's any specific questions from the council, the mayor, or staff.
Let's start with Council President Nissen. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to thank you both for your time and presentation. I always enjoy getting the overview of how things are going, and I definitely like to hear and see the improvements and comparing them to the years of past and where we're at.
Councilor Minor.
Yes, first thing I'll just say is congratulations on your award from ACCT for diversity, and being recognized for that. At some point, I'd be interested to have a conversation about what you looked at, how you studied it, strategies you used to be recognized and earn that award, because we're also working very hard at that in the city. A specific question about the apprenticeships. Always has in the past been a strength of community colleges. And I'm glad to see that you're bringing, it looks like, more robust programs. Are you getting support from the business community, either in terms of funding, help to fund the programs, excuse me, direct entry into the professions? Are you getting that kind of support?
Yes, and especially in the apprenticeship area, we've had great support with our employment partners, and so that continues to be strong. I would say within some of our more traditional for-credit programs, we have strong advisory committees that kind of help us advise the curriculum. But I'm always interested also in new businesses that have come in, making sure we get connected to them so we both know what they need, and can also be responsive and share what we have to offer to them. But yeah, for the most part, I think an area of potential opportunity is what's so valuable about the apprenticeships is their earn and learn, right? So students actually, or apprentices are getting paid while they're actually learning. If there was a way we could figure out whether it's tuition reimbursement or actually just tuition payment or more incentives that employers could use to build their pools, right, of employees, but also help with that cost, because that continues to be a challenge for students.
Sure. As you were talking about some of your, the way I'm saying, as you're refining, bringing new programs on, redesigning, all the things that we're hearing, where does a bond come in here for facilities to keep up with some of the really the needs of training our residents and students for the workforce of today and for higher ed?
It definitely comes in. I think we have a couple intersections happening. One is if there wouldn't have been a pandemic, I think we would have been on a completely different path. And part of that was based on our prior mindset of a traditional brick and mortar. I think the pandemic has really shown us the desire and quite honestly, our ability to do effective online teaching. So it kind of changes our need. I mean, there still will need to be the physical space, but I know my executive team and myself have really kind of started to rethink what does it need to look like, and it's going to be different. So there's that factoring into it. The second part is we're in the process of doing a full-scale facilities master plan, which is really going to inform our needs and our priorities, because I think the basis of a good bond campaign has to be a thorough communication of here's who we are, here's what we're trying to do, here's where we need help, and here's what we will deliver on with that. So we still have, like I said, a few things we're trying to get in line in the back end, but we want to be able to tell a very need-based, cogent story of what we're doing.
Well, it looks to me like you're building a pretty good list when you think about the ability to earn a 4-year degree, a baccalaureate degree. That's a big hurdle for a community college, and I congratulate you, maybe prematurely, but I know it's pending, and that is tremendous. And then the last thing I'll just say, the dual credit program. We've had it in East County for a while, but I'm really pleased to hear that one is stable. And just a testimonial, my granddaughter, who attends Sandy High School, she will graduate with an associate degree from Sandy High School as because of the dual credit opportunity. So keep up the good work. And thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, thanks for being here to share
Beautiful.
the story.
Mhm. Congratulations to your granddaughter.
You betcha. Yeah. Her mother's very happy too, you know, when you start writing those checks. And grandpa is too.
Yeah, well, you know, those things aren't given, so she worked for it. So beautiful. And
Yeah.
the fact that the program was available made everyone happy, and that's a beautiful thing.
And I happen to be a Mount Hood Community College graduate, my associate's degree there too.
Very cool.
Councilor Rios Campos, do you have any?
I do. Sorry for being late, miss part of your presentation, but what I was able to hear, I'm very impressed with, you know, just what you guys are able to do and your accomplishments. You know, that award means a lot to just to see what you guys are striving for. And Councilor Minor did ask one of my questions about apprenticeship, so I really appreciate those efforts and continuing to push that. Your student basic needs, just wanted to know, is that funded through your guys' general fund, or is there partnerships, and how are those needs met to the students? Is this a service that is provided free to them, or how do they get in touch with those services?
Yes, so our goal is, these are all free services, so there is no cost to the student. As far as how we're helping deliver on this, part of it right now, we're benefiting and using some of our stimulus funding. ARPA funds that are, I think are called HERF, but we're using that money because it's so critical to keep the students in. But we're also really working hard to leverage other resources, because one thing we want to make sure is that we're not duplicating services, so that in essence, we're competing against another agency or community-based organization or something. So being real clear what we can do and where we can refer. And then also looking for donations. Our foundation has been incredible. Prior to the pandemic, they were supporting primarily food insecurity, and established this amazing partnership with Amazon. And Amazon gets food products that sometimes part of it gets damaged, and they have to get rid of they can't, as I understand it, they can't then sell it. So we've been getting donations of non-perishable food items, which we then can hand off to our students who are food insecure. The housing issue is, as you know, significant. So we have our director and folks that are in those conversations and trying to figure out what we can do to support it. But again, building off of others that are experts in that work. So we're trying to be a little scrappy in any way we can accomplish anything. But we also know our students need it to be successful.
And then kind of my next question is, in regards to kind of like internships or practicums for students, you know, who would be the best person to get in contact with them, as summer programming is, you know, just huge need out here, and coordinating those efforts with I think providing opportunities for college students to have, you know, real job experience, and that opportunity to maybe in their field be able to develop and create something, you know, a partnership there could be established as well.
So quick follow-up question, are you interested in internships that we offer, or ways that our students could help support internships that the city's trying to offer or work with?
Yeah, more the cities or other agencies, organizations have and just need kind of interns that are interested in participating in those.
Okay. What I can do, because I can think of like 5 different places to send you, which would probably be a waste of your time. So let me, if there's particular kind of areas, whether it's interns in IT, I can say, I know we've got an internship program in our cybersecurity. So if you have any cyber needs, that's a possibility. You know, business programming. If you can kind of give me some areas, I can take that back to both my faculty and our student employment center and see what options might exist.
Yeah, we're probably looking at early childhood development, recreation programs, summer camps, things to engage with youth, and just working in that field and knowing that there is a huge need for more positive adult figures around youth. And so providing just opportunities for college students to kind of interact, especially those that live in the local area, to kind of a full circle back, you know, kind of give back into the community, be positive role models for those upcoming, you know, middle school age, high school age students, to see someone locally be in a path of success. So I think, you know, those would probably be the areas.
Okay. Yeah, and I could see where both within our 2-year programs, but even for students who are planning to transfer in kind of those youth development areas, there might be some nice crossover where they could be getting some of that practical experience, as you put it, prior to their transfer.
Great, thank you.
And so all my questions or comments will just be to kind of pile on what you've already been asked. First would be about apprenticeships, and that would be to encourage you to consider in the future a public works apprenticeship. You know, your catchment areas, for better or for worse, well, it doesn't necessarily include the Portland metro area, it's close to it. And so the smaller cities tend to do a really good job of training public works people and helping them get through their certs and move up their steps. And then, you know, a bigger city will try and come and poach them. And, you know, we're lucky that that hasn't happened to us here recently necessarily, but it has happened to us in the past. And each time there's an opening, it's very hard to find and hire the right person. And so it'd be interesting to see an apprenticeship that focused on public works. And then talking about the Office of Student Basic Needs, you said that you don't want to compete with other programs, but I'm curious, does the office have a counselor that can lead students to other programs, for instance, how to apply for the rent help right now and to avoid eviction?
So our director just got hired in January, so we're really in the build-up mode. So at this point, I don't know if we have that in place. So if you have any referrals, we're definitely open. There are some planned positions that we're hiring for. But yeah, the referrals specifically on housing, we don't have, to my knowledge. I can check back with Bhakti Rose, but I don't know if we have that lined up yet.
And do you know sort of what percentage of the student body is homeless and or food insecure?
60%. And I think our 60, yeah, 60 have been food and housing insecure. I think we participate in a national study every year, and it's 60%, I think, within the last month have had experienced food and or housing. And I think our homelessness number is around 18%.
And then I don't know that you'd know this answer off the top of your head, but looking at those two percentages, the 18 and the 60, would you feel like it's more of your sort of younger, more traditional students that maybe are on their own for the first time? Or would you say that this really spans, you know, all of the age groups that are, you know, amongst the thousands of people that you serve?
Yeah, it spans the age group. From what I've seen with interactions like with our food pantry and whatnot, it runs the gamut.
And then thinking about the question that you were asked about the bond, I was at a pre-session town hall the other day, and Senator and Professor Gorsuch brought up a bill that he wants to sponsor and may bring up in the short session, where the state would be allowed to give you grant dollars that normally require a match. And I'm just wondering where you perceive pushback on that, and how we might be able to help lobby for that to come to fruition.
Because we had floated this to the legislature last year, and the specific pushback at that time was there's some members that feel like if there's not skin in the game from the local community, that it's not valued. And I like to push back on that, considering not all communities are created equal. And if you look at the 8 schools that have had challenges in passing a bond, they do have one thing in common. and that's that they serve a disadvantaged community. So this is, it's an equity issue for me to the bone, but so that's one argument. Another argument I've heard is that it couldn't be done because the Constitution wouldn't allow it. And so I think that's the premise for Senator Gorsuch's bill, is making that change so that it is allowed to remove that barrier.
No, if it is constitutionally banned, you'd have to be a referral, but yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. And then I think the other objection I've also heard is concern that if you do this for the community colleges, does that extend and you have to do it for all school districts, and then the concerns about the price tag. And I think the senator has made the scope pretty narrow in this, but that is another concern I've heard.
I would say if they're concerned with the price tag, then they shouldn't offer the money up in the first place. Because it's not costing them any less if you pass the bond, right? And then, and certainly tuition is skin in the game. And, you know, in our residents, you know, at least 30 of ours are paying some. So I can at least count on me to write letters and talk about that. And then, you know, one place that we're in sort of a battle with the Reynolds School District is to be able to recognize students. And so they're telling us that whether or not a student makes the honor roll is protected directory information. And so, you know, we might, you know, just spread the word that, you know, if you're a Reynolds High School student that makes the honor roll, you can contact us and we want to make an award for you. And, you know, we'd like to hear the same thing, if we could, about our 30 Wood Village students. And if they happen to, you know, win an award at the college or have grades that put them on a dean's list, then we'd like to recognize them in our newsletter and recognize them at a city council meeting and just congratulate them for their achievements.
Beautiful.
And then you mentioned that there are 7 businesses in Wood Village that are in your small business supports. I'd like you to send the information that talks about what those supports are, how a business qualifies for them, and then we can put those in the newsletter as well and try to, you know, convince other businesses in town that might be able to take advantage to join in the program as well.
Definitely.
Staff, any questions or comments?
Just I guess more of a comment, just thanking Dr. Ascari and Board Member Paulson for just all your work and dedication. I love this partnership that's been crafted over the past, you know, couple years. We're getting more, I think, done in the past couple years during COVID of all times than in the past. I often get to talk with Board Member Andrew Spear because of his role at PGE, but we often talk about the college, and we've actually already had kind of high level talks about utility readiness, you know, what that could look like in partnership with PGE, OHA, DEQ, because there's only one existing program, I think, left in the state, and the need isn't going away for that type of skilled work. So I love the idea to bounce around ideas with the college. It's such an underutilized asset that we love help making it shine. And, you know, the work you do is so valuable, so important, and it's clear that you have a lot of passion. And I had a lovely conversation with Tracy today from your, you know, team, Dr. Ascari, who's, again, clearly passionate and just love these partnerships that we're able to craft. So thank you.
Cool.
Amazing. I've seen 2 of her presentations on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the best of any that I have seen or, you know, sought out. And so Greg is working with her to where we could put together a council workshop and give us presentations, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Well, and to the question earlier around what have we done, Tracy is a source of gold. She just, not only her style and approach, but does it in such a caring and thoughtful manner that has really launched the institution and I think where we've gotten to where we are. So in addition to all the board support. So I do need to also give them lots of credit.
Well, and she's unapologetic as well, and to the extent that it makes people feel uncomfortable, we should, and we need to learn that fostering, creating a level playing field is how we get over that discomfort, but not by ignoring things and going on with the status quo. So, thank you very much for her. Unless there are any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Dr. Skari and Board Member Polson, for tonight's presentation. Just like Greg said, we really enjoy this increasing relationship and anxious to learn more about how we can work together to benefit our community.
All right. Thank you
See you next
for the
year,
invitation.
not
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Night.
Okay, ciao.
All right, next up, agenda item number 4, and this is the opening discussion on our municipal code update with James.
Nice and comfortable. All right.
And Director Polson and Dr. Skari, if you want to, if you could stay on at least for the first part of this. I mean, not that our meetings aren't exciting and riveting and you wouldn't want to stay the whole time, but it would be interesting to learn what you think, especially about the potential preamble that we will have for our municipal code.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Harden, council members, administrative staff. First of all, I just want to thank you all for providing the opportunity for me. I think it's a wonderful, and I've learned so much in 5 months I've been investing in me. And okay, let's get started. It's my privilege to provide you an overview and bring forth a discussion for these suggested revisions and updates for. And just a quick introduction. My name is James Conway, and I have 2 undergrads, economics and political science. I just earned my master's of public administration last year, and hopefully and to recap the code project that started last year with the previous fellow. The municipal code is a collection of laws that guide the city's policies and operation. It is an important collection. It is important that this collection has no internal conflicting ordinances or contradicts county or state. Phase 1 of the update last year paved the way for the current phase by providing suggestive revisions and focused on gendered pronouns and making them neutral. There were a lot of he pronouns and just that they all be changed. They, them, their. Today, we're going to review 7 titles and introduce a preamble. Items for discussion are wholesale changes of outdated and we have a few policy questions. So please, I invite you to ask questions at any time. This is a discussion. And city goal that this meets is goal number 1. That provides a safe, clean, quality housing The criteria used among like a DEI lens is comprehensiveness. The comprehensive tool utilized was the groundwork of the previous fellow, like I stated before. The knowledge and expertise, and me personally reviewing the document countless times for a complete. I also researched and examined multiple city codes around the region, around the state, for best practices and verbiages, anything that that is progressive that they're using. That consistency is essential for operations and policy. Gender neutral language, remove contradictory, and reinforces the city's commitment are inclusive. And the third one is the transparency. We cleaned up some wordy language. And this helps remove barriers, makes the code efficient to help build the ultimate goal of bringing trust between the city and its residents. Some general housekeeping, excuse me. Gendered pronouns. So like I said, instead of using he or her, we're suggesting to use their, them. Instead of manhole, we're suggesting to use maintenance access. I found about 3 or 4 of those. And then let's see, position titles and job duties were found to be inconsistent, not uniform. Just correcting them to titles and their duties. And you may refer to Exhibit A. There were a lot of grammatical errors and typos. So we corrected those throughout the whole chapter, the whole code. And the general structure was very inconsistent. So I went through and just made the structures like the bulletin systems all be consistent. In my research, it appears that many city codes back language from other codes and kind of call, I don't know if I'm the first one to say this, but I doubt it, the copy and paste effect. And it creates inconsistencies and grammatical errors. So this comprehensive review helps alleviate this. All right, this is exciting. Greg and I worked on this. And so the preamble. Preambles are rare in municipal codes, but this is an opportunity to represent the community and reflect our values against social and socioeconomic injustice. This is important to forge, and it's an impactful statement that guides city operations, business, and policy in more equitable and so at this time, I would like to open up and gather your thoughts.
James, do you happen to have a slide to throw up that has the preamble on it?
No.
All right. Well, if it pleases the council, then I'd like to read it because I agree with James and with Greg that it's impactful, and then kind of the direction that I thought of as I was reading it that we might take is that probably 18 months ago I sent you out some National League of Cities emails and a sort of a video that was on creating an anti-racist statement. And then I brought up the prospect of it at the last retreat when we were discussing our land acknowledgement that we read now. And when I saw this preamble, I thought that this might be a really great place for an anti-racist statement. And I just already made it, this preamble, or if there were any changes that we might want to make. And I'm going to go ahead and read it aloud. The City of Wood Village Municipal Code as the laws, regulations, and guidance for the community in developing and maintaining and updating these provisions The city values the dignity and work of all human beings and is committed to promoting justice, inclusivity, and accessibility by respecting cultural and individual diversity and fostering mutual understanding among all peoples, regardless of race, religion, color, sex, gender identification, creed, national origin, ethnicity, familial status, age, sexual orientation, current housing or unhoused status, source of income, or disability. It is the intent of the city that all people have an equal opportunity to participate fully in the life and economic opportunities of the city, that discriminatory barriers to equal participation in entrepreneurship, employment, and public amenities and services be removed. In the pursuit of these ideals, policies, and procedures and regulations, will continuously be evaluated and crafted to help create a more perfect community. In the interest of the common good, we strive to create a happy place for all people because happy places create happy people. The values of equity based in equality, diversity, and inclusiveness represent the community and the good people of Wood Village and will be upheld by the city, its council, appointed leaders, and city administration.
And so you are correct, Mayor, when it was James' idea to include something like this based off previous kind of council conversations. I mean, it wasn't a direct council request to create something. And in reviewing our municipal code, which are the laws of the city, it was thought of as a good way to form the basis and the foundation for which those laws should be formed and framed. So you were correct in your assumption of why there.
Start with Council President Nissen. Do you feel like there's anything that you would like to change or update?
I like the entire thing, except for the happy a little bit. I think, I personally feel that we could strike it and just say, in the interest of common good, we strive to create a place for all people. I think just having that happy in there, and whatever the commercial is, the happy cows thing, it brings my mind to that and takes it away from our people. And I think that brings it down a little. Other than that, I think it's spot on.
Councilor Minor?
You know, it's interesting you said that, because that's the first thing that struck me that is kind of incongruent with the language. I don't think we can create happy people. I mean, we can't. We can help people be happy with their surroundings. But I think I think we could strike it myself, is the short answer here. Everything else, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to have a preamble to the codes. And I think it says what we are striving for. And I don't think you can overlook the various documents we have that we don't reiterate that. So I think I would support striking the happy and keeping it within context of what we're trying to get at.
I agree with both counselors. And the other area also is to help create a more perfect community. I think perfect is a word, that can be interpreted by anybody in a different means. And so I would either suggest replacing perfect with livable or inclusive. That's what this is trying to create. Make sure everyone feels included. And so change the word from perfect, because I think my perfect would be different than your perfect. And then, I'll leave that up, but I think, just changing that word perfect would be my.
And
I like livable.
Yeah.
We've kind of hit on inclusive up above. We haven't interjected livable into it. I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think that shows that we feel like that more livable is synonymous with inclusive. And before I jump on the Strike the Happy bandwagon, I want to say thank you for it. I honestly do, because I think that it feels like you are targeting the way this council normally behaves, which is very much down to earth and reflective of the people that we serve. I think you see it, when we called it the Help and Information Center instead of the Information Center, for instance. That was a long discussion, and there were some people that thought help was maybe sort of goofy, but it's where we live and it's where we want to meet people. And so while I would advocate taking it out, I think I understand the intent, and I truly appreciate it. And then I agree with the livable. Disappointed in the word count, not because it's too wordy, but because there are so many people that have clearly been discriminated in the past that the list is long, and that's unfortunate. But I think it's incumbent upon us to come as close to including everyone. Really no way around the word count, and there shouldn't be a way. Inclusive and Strike the Happy, and I feel like we've got something there. I would be interested, though, if Dr. Scari and Board Member Polson stayed on just to get their view on it before they go.
Can we chime in now?
Sure.
Okay. What I would like to do is just make a suggestion, and I'm sure that it might be something that you're planning that I don't know about. But I think it will be inclusive and accessible. If you take the work that you're doing right now with this preamble and make sure that it is translated into different languages.
We're with you there 100%. In fact, just to give you some background on that, last year we started a pay bump for employees who could go to a third-party testing group and demonstrate fluency speaking or writing. And we had 2 employees that got both pay bumps for speaking and writing in Spanish, and 1 in Russian. And then we have also hired Linguava, translation service that I think does 140 languages. And they'll do on-demand translation for phone calls, for meetings, for documents, and the city pays for the translation, not the person who needs the translator in order to be understood.
That's beautiful. That's definitely including everybody. Beautiful. Congratulations.
I would add, I'm sorry, Kenny, were you done?
Yes, ma'am.
I agree, and it's not that I've seen preambles for lots of cities, but I was surprised a bit to see this, and I think this is beautiful work, as Kenny put it. I agree with the happy, and I would add a comment on the word perfect. That in some cultures, especially Arabic cultures, perfection is reserved for Allah. And so his people don't strive to be perfect, because that would be disrespectful. So I think eliminating that also could have an added bonus for any of those communities you might have in the city. So the only other thing I would is statements are nice, but as we know, when it gets into it, it's then what follows the statements in action. And I'm sure that in your document is where you get into the specific things that address the anti-racist actions that you're hoping to achieve and accomplish by this document. But I think it's great. I love this.
Thank you both. And thank you for the insight on the word perfect. I kind of left that out too. I felt like it was a reference to a more perfect union, and so it's, it's after 250 some odd years, it's getting a little tired. So,
Mhm.
and thank you very much, both very much again for your input. And then James, if you want to continue.
Thank you all for your input. Okay, let's get into it. Title I, General Provisions. So the quick outline of this presentation, I'm going to do kind of like a cover page of the title and give you a quick little synopsis of the, just because it would be redundant to repeat them. Title I, so adding city to the official written title of Wood Village. There was a lot of wood villages, so and city of wood villages, so staying consistent with that. City being correctly capitalized, there's a lot of inconsistencies with spelling out the number correctly with the numerical value brackets, with the numerical value in brackets right after it. This creates clarity and readability. And added a few keywords to define for transparency, like petition, initiative, and the biggest suggestion in this title is to strike 1.04, and it's basically saying that this is gender neutral, and it gave a list of what it included, and it didn't clearly include enough people. So the whole point of this review is to make it gender neutral, excuse me. So there's no need to state it anymore. Title II covers administration and personnel. Gendered language existed in this chapter more than the previous. So it's important to set precedents and consistency. Gender neutral language changes are suggested. Just general grammatical fixes, clarity and readability. It was a pretty short section as well. But moving on, staff suggests we delete most of the municipal pro tempore chapter and clean it up by adding the provision because we have a intergovernment agreement with the city of Troutdale, and the city Wood Village may appoint a municipal court judge to IGA, and find the exact wording in. So basically, it's cleaning it up because we don't have one in the city. So, but we just want to make that provision in.
James, if I could say one thing, Dr. Scari mentioned, wanting to see the code and that the changes we were going to make, we're going to live the preamble. And I just wanted the two of you to know that tonight's staff report is 160 pages long. And so James has explained every change that he's going to make with the red lines and the additions. And so as we skim over it for brevity, rest assured that the entire change is spelled out clearly for us here in the staff report.
Thank you. Chapter 2.24, section 70 is suggested to be deleted because it conflicts with the planning commission, and also because Oregon statute 4 covers this. So there's no need to code. The city never had a development agency, so chapter 2.36 is redundant with urban renewal agency.
And we did run these by, as James calls them, my friend Jeff.
He's very, very helpful and very quick on response. So I like that. All right, Title III, Revenue and Finance. Some general consistent changes were gender neutral language, job title and duty changing. So the big one in this was the city recorder duty was specified. And in this particular title, done under the hat of the city manager or designee. So we suggest changing all the city recorders or designee. And a few grammar structure fixes. Structure. Let's see, chapter 3.04, fiscal provisions. Since Oregon statutes covers city finance and monies, it's very out of date and punt covers it over the state statutes. Chapter 3.08, I cleaned up the definition to hotel to have a less outdated negative stereotypes in it. Like one, bachelor hotels, nobody really, I actually had to look that up. And, very negative content. So I recommend striking that and adding bed and breakfasts. Staff suggests to update the tax imposed exemptions in this chapter to reflect the state. This is great because once again, it's keeping that consistency with state. In Exhibit A, you may see details. Just to list a few that some facilities that aren't taxed are like healthcare, nonprofit, drug and alcohol treatments, all aligned with the state law. To close out this title, there were some grammatical fixes in chapter 3.2. And the big one was 3.18, section 10, and delete this because the city. And at this moment, Title IV is reserved. So if anybody has any questions so far, input, guidance. Everybody's staying awake?
All looks good and
I'm trying to
made.
my graphics.
If we wanted to leave one line in that section 3 of that where it says that the state has to give us the money they owe us faster than they do, that would be.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Okay, moving on. Business and license regulations. This was a fun one to review, and it was a great collaboration with the staff to nail down these suggestions. This was obviously out of my league, but we nailed. I want to thank Becky's not here, but her help as well, and Em. The change in this title is the license fee due date. So originally it's first, but we have until January 31st. So just staying consistent with city operations and policy. And the city recorder duty as well, just like 2 sections before, switching it to the city manager.
Can I ask just one question about that? So at one point in time, Greg, your title was recorder, right?
Correct. If it's, when you go back before the city was recognized as a manager council form of government, it was a city recorder, and the plaque in my office actually lists the original city recorders that essentially had the day-to-day administrative functions. I think it started in the mid-80s is when they hired their administrator, and then subsequently changed to then, had the adopted charter provisions for a council manager form of government, but still title the city administrator until we made that change. But when you look at the provisions and their dates, a lot of them are 50s, 60s, 70s, when city recorder was still essentially the head of the part of the entity. And consistency, city manager or designee, and I designate a lot to the people in this room.
Yeah, and to be clear, we didn't strike city recorder throughout the whole document, just in these certain sections. to allow for flexibility. But it just allows the city more flexibility. All right, continuing, the application prescription for business licenses is suggested to be deleted as all of prescriptions. So the our code, the Wood Village Code, was very unique in my research because it actually had the printed line. I mean, it prescribed it line by line of what. I didn't see that in any other code that I. Lost my place. So after collaborating with the administrative staff, we suggest to delete the first paragraph, section 41, due to it's irrelevant. We don't do it. Have and the application prescription, section 51 of this chapter, same thing. It's all right. So this is a fun one. I love this. Amusement devices. I'm a big fan of pinball. And it just doesn't cover pinball, but I learned that municipalities can pinball machines. Didn't know that.
Pool tables.
200
Pool
per
tables.
pinball machine.
So staff seeks policy direction on amusement device seizures in chapter 5.16. I sent Jeff an email. And we concluded that it's recommended to be deleted because this caused more trouble than it's worth. And it'll be just beneficial for the city.
It's basically if someone doesn't pay their amusement device fee, we could go in and then seize those amusement device fees, which I'd rather just issue a citation, not try to confiscate their stuff.
I don't know what kind
City
of amusement
Hall.
devices are available to be seized.
Could we get a couple of, is there anybody that has
Apparently James likes pinballs.
on their
so-
pinball machine? Yes, you know, we could have some at City Hall. But
Well, we actually internally started asking ourselves the question, why are things like, pinball arcade games charge a separate fee when, for example, you could go to Fred Meyer, we don't charge them a business license fee for each and every product they sell. Why would, for an example, an arcade-like area be charged per machine? Well, again, our good friend Jeff explained it to us that if we want to continue to charge our device fee on Oregon lottery machines, we need to charge it on all amusement device machines. So the recommendation is to continue to allow to charge for amusement devices, but we don't want to seize them.
right. And then, so Jeff, I know that there was the one time I brought up potentially raising them. I think that I was told that we'd have to put out an election for a change to the charter in order to increase them.
We'd have to refer it to the vote.
We'll refer it to the voters.
Because
Okay.
the amusement advice fee is really.
And there's provision for changing how we govern the program. We could just say, fine instead of taking it.
It's the charge itself that's the tax. The fine is enforcement. That wouldn't. But it's basically a revenue.
And, reflecting on those numbers, while they were unusual at $200 for a pinball machine, I don't know, what is that, $1,000 worth of revenue for the city?
We get amusement devices, what, a few $1,000s, Seth?
I was gonna say, I think it's
3 or 4, that's what I thought. And I don't think any of them come from pinballs. It's mostly video arcade, crane machines, and those are $75 per.
$75 for a crane machine? Oh, my goodness.
I think the little.
Apparently the mayor,
Maybe we need to
the mayor
go-
wants a great machine.
those things are way less fun than pinball, and so they
But,
They're a ripoff.
well, and people get
never
trapped
win.
in them for crying out loud.
You never win.
Imagine what the rescue would cost. So,
We gotta keep some of us
Yeah.
employed.
so, yeah, exactly. So, you know, one of the reasons I kind of brought up the total value is so then, you know, what would be the value of the fine? So if you don't pay your $200 for your pinball machine, are we gonna charge them a fine of $200 or $250?
We have the ability to charge up to $1,000 per day per violation.
Well, I saw that in there, but yeah.
You know, we've never actually had to even press someone to pay for that. We would do kind of audits every now and then with counting how many machines someone says they have. It's actually never been an issue since I've.
So, since it's never been an issue, but in order to make it actual deterrent, should it ever become an issue, do we want to just the $1,000?
We have that already. So we
Yeah.
have a violation penalty. We're asking to remove this,
Right, okay, all right, yeah.
And you should
unless you
keep
want
your-
them in the lobby.
Well, I kind of do, but.
Well, if we seized them, how much money could we make if we had them in the?
Probably from employees, quite a bit.
James.
We could do a rec room.
James is gonna stop at chapter 7 if we get a.
But we have happier employees.
That's
Which
right.
create happy
A
places.
happy place.
Happy, happy.
Okay, so,
Okay. Moving on.
before we move on, do we
I'm
actually
good.
need to pass a resolution?
So right
Eliminating
now, we're
seizure,
just
or-
seeking your feedback. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Yeah,
Yeah.
keep that elite deletion, no, put it back in. It was just, we wanted to pause because that was a change, a significant change, unlike the kind of general housekeeping things.
Thumbs up on
Yeah.
deleting seizure?
Yeah,
All right, thank
The
you.
first one.
makes sense. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Be on the lookout for value crane machines we can put in City Hall.
No, I don't want the crane machine. I want.
Okay, let's see, sections 15 of chapter 5.20 has we suggest to delete provision A1. This is irrelevant prescription of a rental license form. So after consulting with staff again and looking at the rental form, we suggest modification for simplicity. And so basically, addition, so this is the suggested add, is quote, on a form approved by the city manager or designee. And this is in regards to an owner. It just leaves it open. Section 35 is a short section. Staff suggests to delete it because internal and organizational inefficiencies. It is irrelevant as the city doesn't.
Forgive me for not remembering what page of the 160-page staff report, but rental license. So what kind of rental?
These are for home, like
Homes,
home
so,
rentals,
yeah,
so
okay, that's
whether
what I
it's,
thought.
you know, an apartment
Okay,
complex,
yeah.
a home duplex, if you're renting essentially a unit.
Okay, I don't have a comment then. Thank you.
Okay, so Title VI, animals. Being a small city, being a small city in jurisdictional size, but mighty, we rely on a lot of IGAs with the county to enforce laws. So Title VI is no different, where the city's under the umbrella of the county code and enforcement. Just a quick thing in my research, I'm guessing it's because of the smaller size city. A lot of them have, dog provision. It was just a broader, but since the county covers it, I think it just made it nice. Just a side note. The main focus on this title is on Gallus domesticus, the domestic chicken. And so one small suggestion stems from my biology professor pounding this into my head, is when a species name is written, it needs to be written correctly and scientific. In the original, it wasn't. Stood out to me. technical change, but we're in the process of cleaning it up, so I would suggest. Other suggestions, changing out-of-date references to the county code. And staff looks for your input for policy regarding keeping of chickens.
Council meeting I approved at that had an audience,
Mhm.
chickens.
I was just thinking, I thought the whole chicken subject was,
Did I speak at everyone? No, I'm just kidding.
No, no, bring it,
Okay.
bring it. If you could do it all in Latin or add kingdom, phylum, order, family and.
Genus, species.
Yeah, yeah.
In chapter 6.04, I cross-referenced county code on animal services and found that reference to county ordinance number 909 was out of date from 1998. And the new reference location in the county code is chapter 13. It looks like the code covers the same material, but the section title was moved. Moving on to the few suggested adds. After examining Gresham's code, which was pretty extensive and it was a good reference. I found a few provisions that would be a good suggestive add to the code. First, adding provision 3 in chapter 6, section 20, this would consider only chickens count towards the total number allowed. Currently, it's 3 max. This second provision is adding an eighth provision under section 30. This is a health and safety provision, and it's a rodent reduction provision. Quote, chicken feed or supplements to support chicken health must be stored in a sealed container that is not penetrable by rodents or other animals. I did not see that in our original code, and I thought that's a good one.
Yeah.
The last provision under 6, section 40, permit required section, is adding that the permit shall be valid for a calendar year and non-refundable. Also, it states that the city manager or designee may revoke permit. Administrative staff and I would like your input and direction on a policy regarding chickens. Currently, chickens are allowed in the lower village, but not the upper village, which is LR 12, if you guys know codes. And I would like to open up for discussion. Thoughts, and Greg has more detail.
I mean, Mayor Harden, you were there, Council President Nissen, you were there. I mean, you kind of remember-ish. There are some people from Upper Village that didn't want the neighbors having chickens, and that kind of prevailed. And so it's been a decade or better since that was revisited. And the thought was, let's open this back up for discussion. In terms of people asking for chickens in the city, we don't get many inquiries lately. And to be frankly honest, most people that have chickens, they just build a little coop and put in their chickens. And essentially, if it's a non-issue, we treat it as a non-issue. And since we're going through the code, though, we want this time to reflect, what do you value the keeping of chickens to be in the community?
Well, I've always resented thought they were too good for chickens.
I don't have any problem with people. Discussion went through this. So I don't have any problem with this.
Setbacks and
Would you like it for all residential zones or just the light residential? Because there are parts in I'll call it the lower village that are technically zoned multi-family residential, but they're more medium density. So duplexes and the like that actually have some potential space for the reasonable chickens.
Quick question, would this then include like mobile or?
It could, I mean, in terms of both, if it's a rental property inclusive of manufactured home parks, owner of that facility's discretion would take precedence. it may be a little tricky to meet some setbacks in tighter community spaces. And kind of in the terms of enforcement inside manufactured home parks, since that entire thing is private property, enforcement is not impossible, just more difficult and limited. Again, the idea behind this is safety of the animals and then the safety of the people around the animals. Again, down rodents and vermin and just making sure quality for everyone.
Hard to believe it's been a decade or so since we've visited this particular subject. And I think the thoughts and ideas around having chickens has potentially increased. If it hasn't changed, it's potentially increased and become more of an accepted thing. And I would be in favor of including it.
Is the max 3 good? Do we want to increase that, leave it the same?
I think the max of 3 is good, particularly if we're going to say that they don't have to count, you know, the progeny.
I've had to call them baby
or the
chickens because I
add-on, you know?
giggle when I call
Yeah.
them the other word.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Three
it's,
chickens can lay quite a few eggs.
Right.
The word.
But, yeah, no, yeah, they can have, yeah, they ought to be able to, you know, tend the next generation and, you know, when it's a keeper, when it reaches an adult age, call one that isn't. And
Okay.
don't name the chickens. Don't name the chickens. Someday you're gonna eat them.
Unless you name them with a specific recipe in mind.
Yes. You are cacciatore and you are Parmesan.
House sitting my brother's house and property, and he has 3 chickens, and one of them was butt cheek powder, named by my niece. So
Family friendly environment.
okay, so here we are, Title VII, it's reserved. So in summary, I would like to just kind of get your input on the preamble real quick. So in place of the happy place for all the people, because happy place, happy people, we strive to create a more inclusive place for all peoples.
Livable or inclusive? I think livable.
Livable was in another part.
Yeah.
Livable was up above.
And yeah, I like livable because it's different than inclusive. Yeah, so anyways, that was just a suggestion.
Livable in place of perfect.
Yeah, and perfect. So we're okay with that?
Good there.
Okay,
There.
thank you. And so the next steps. So per your direction, staff will draft revisions to the code for consideration and adoptions. This is part 1, so please stay tuned for part 2 of the comprehensive review. Next meeting, February 10th. I'm happy because you'll get to see me more.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And there's no suggested motion at the time.
have to top chicken.
Just you wait, we've got
We
water,
wish you
we've got
luck.
sewer,
Yeah,
we've
that's
got
okay.
nuisance code.
The best topics ever.
James, I
Alright.
appreciate how you
Yeah.
laid this out so we can go through it in an efficient manner. So, nice job for, as far as I'm concerned.
He wasn't really pleased when we said his staff report has to be 3 pages. He spent a lot of time
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
it down from the
well,
16 it
16
was.
to- yeah. Well, and you look good tonight too, so thanks for dressing up for us. We appreciate
You're welcome. That screen sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
you can,
good.
you can.
You're good.
Thank you,
Go
James.
home. All right, well, thank you.
Next up is a presentation from Greg on Resolution 3-2022, our personnel policy.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I do not have any happies in our policy, nor do I have dancing chickens doing the human dance, so I apologize for that.
Why would we want personnel to be happy?
Okay, so we've been trying to do this for a few months now. We brought back some suggested language back in November. Unfortunately, at the time, we didn't have a quorum, so that those present, we got some good feedback from some on some sections. And so the intent is we're going to highlight a few sections quickly because they're relatively straightforward. And then we're going to pause on a couple of sections that still had some discussion at that November meeting and allow everyone to have their input and to feedback on how we've revised some of those. And if at any, while we have this set up as a resolution for adoption tonight, if at any time you're not comfortable, you want it brought back, we're happy to do so. Because again, at the previous conversation, we lacked a full quorum. And so we again want to make sure people are comfortable with the revision. So section 110 for work hours, this is updated to reflect essentially additional work from home provisions. The current one was relatively outdated with, you had to fax in your daily work tasks. So this is really updated to reflect more common practice. It doesn't make it standard that we have a work from home every day for people, but in terms of, they need a little bit of flex because they've got an appointment later day or early morning, or, they're sick, but can work for a few hours or caring for themselves or a family member. It allows some great opportunities. And we've had some of that recently with some leave provisions where we've got work continuing. They're just not physically here. Section 210 for holidays. Way back when you said, go ahead and add June 19th or Juneteenth as a paid and recognized holiday. So that has been done. The other piece that was still up for discussion was Christmas Eve. And so kind of hedged it. And that Christmas Eve tends to be granted off by the council if it's during kind of a weekday. And so we can stipulate that if that day was going to be off anyway, because Christmas Eve was going to be a Saturday, or like this past year where Christmas was on the Saturday, we automatically got Christmas Eve off, which is a Friday. That way it essentially codifies what council practice has been without necessarily adding a true holiday day. That again, if it's stacked, so say like this past year, have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, for how it was this past year versus if it's midweek, like a Tuesday, then staff would get both days off. Pause a moment here. Thoughts on, did we hit the mark with that one?
In the meeting where felt as though staff wanted to.
And it felt that the council president wanted to make it a holiday.
And
Oh, he wasn't at the
No.
meeting, but, well, and I mean, at that meeting, at that meeting, I actually have staff would like to have it.
Well, yeah, I believe city manager's discretion. So I think if the council says we agree, policy or what?
I think typically in the past, it was brought to a council meeting.
It was brought to a council
A
meeting.
month or
Just-
two before.
Typically, we say, hey, we earned the safety award. By the way, can we have Christmas Eve off?
That's what I remember.
Yeah, that's
Seems
what
kind of, yeah, to me, I think if,
the point, when we've asked council's never said no.
But I do think you've hit there in so much. Given us the courtesy of bringing other things before us to talk about, like 980 and things like that. You are the only employee technically serves at the pleasure of the council, and hire your senior team, hire their reports, charge of the day-to-day. I think that I think we ought to pass the pressure on to you, and you know, and have you know, Seth coming to you and saying, well, we won the safety award, and just
Well, you're working the weekend.
and you know, and make it city manager discretion. And the reason I say that is, of course, you know, 25 years from now, you will be retiring as the Wood Village city manager, and so there'll be a new one. And leaves council the duty. It doesn't bind any council in the future. It just with whoever sits in your.
I'm kind of fine with that approach where we have our council recognized holidays, and certainly at least with this council, and if that becomes practice where Christmas Eve, like, sure. And if one day a future council 20 some odd years from now says, then I'll just retire.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
No, I'm basically happy keeping it with the Juneteenth as added, and then understanding your direction that, look, Christmas Eve is my call. Put the heat on me to run the organization and not pass the buck to the council.
I would just like to make a small comment. I would vote for just having it as a holiday off. And the reason I say that is it also provides staff a kind of look forward to knowing ahead of time, planning, being able to schedule with family, maybe understanding that they, you know, being married myself, I don't have, you know, I have kind of, I'm lucked out because my extended family's in another state. So if we go visit them only, right? And so having that pressure of, you know, we have one day we have to visit multiple families could add extra pressure to, you know, an employee that has a family, a growing family, or, you know, just wants to spend some time off. So I could be okay with having Christmas Eve as a holiday off already, giving, you know, employees an opportunity to look forward to an extended period to be more with family. But I would be okay also with Greg having.
Me telling them at 4:58 the day before isn't helpful.
No, and I mean, and that sort of clarity was also why I advocated making it a paid.
I'd prefer to leave it, kind of pushing it off of our desk and onto Greg's desk. I would prefer to leave it in your hands to make that decision. If for no other reason, we're not binding the hands of the council 25 years down the road, there is that flexibility still.
It's discretionary now. It's not a given. If for some reason in the future, take some of these holidays away, that's good.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's 20 plus years from now and I will be retired.
Now, PRS is, you're gonna have to be 80.
No,
Yeah.
I checked PERS. I can do it at 57, which is 23 years away, but you know, at 25, you know.
I like it in your hands.
Excellent. I understand the direction. Thank you. Section 250, bereavement leave. We discussed this in the past. It's kind of, right now it's written very much for, you know, married couples. And there are those people, for whatever reason, choose not to get married, but are no otherwise, you know, significantly attached to one another and their family. So we broadened the definition of who's eligible. Also had a provision for, you know, miscarriage and other kind of trauma that someone may need some time for, increased it from 3 to 5 days. I knew I had one.
Period, Rom?
Yep, period, ROM. Forgot the F. Ironically, I failed spelling, so there's a missing F. Now, this is the one that had quite a bit of discussion last time, and I take responsibility for kind of, misnomering the term sabbatical. So what you saw a couple months ago was thought of, we have this bonus provision for longevity at 5-year intervals. And the thought was, provide that employer team member a bit of time off instead of the cash. I've certainly heard from those present that, time off is great, but maybe just boosting the cash would be a better method. And so did two things here. Right now, the bonus provision is based on the average monthly salary. So you take the monthly amount, you take currently 1.5% of that. It's about $88 on the slide here. You actually see what the current amount is. So at 5 years, you get $82, 10 years, 165, et cetera. So what we're proposing, kind of again, based on my understanding of the two people that were here, is like, well, maybe that should just be, actually have it be meaningful. So what we did was increased it by 0.5%, or in some cases, percent and a half. We kind of escalated it, and then you see the new dollars there. Another thing we could do, so we increased the percentage, and instead of the monthly, it's the yearly, the median yearly salary. So it actually makes it an amount of substance. We can leave it as the yearly, but we take it back to the traditional 1.5, 3, 4.5, et cetera. That basically takes it down to, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Yeah. Didn't include that other chart for clarity purposes. So it's two things. You have the percentage, and then do you want it based off yearly or the currently? The other piece that I added to that was a person could choose to take the cash or time off equivalent of the cash. And then it becomes essentially added to their vacation bank to use at their leisure. So some people, if they do want a little bit of extra time, this provides a means and methods. We convert their fully loaded hourly, take it away from what they would have got for their bonus. There's their new time off kind of bank. Some people may want the cash and spend it on something fun or a future vacation. Pause here.
Is that going to put an additional workload on your staff, Seth, than if you have somebody that only wants to go split it halvesies, or is it an all or none?
I think it's all or none is how we wrote it. That way it's just for the staff purpose, they just either convert it and it's added, or here's your money as part of your payroll. And that's how we add it to their monthly payroll.
And if anyone ever works overtime, they always have the option of converting it into comp time. So we have to have that form, and we process that for everyone every payroll.
Already, okay.
And for concerns of, geez, 25 years, we're talking, $5,000, $6,000. We've had in my quick search, one person that was here 25 years. That was Kay Powers, a city recorder. Sheila Ritz was 23, 24 years. And then Marie was about 21. Other than that, our average probably is somewhere around 7. Give or take.
I like the concept here, that where we're going with this. I think it's about retention. We talked about that. It's not perhaps a recruiting tool, but it is a retention tool, and it is a recognition tool. How many days, let's just take the person, 20.
At 20 years.
How many days would that be if they chose not to take the money? Roughly, I mean, an average salary. I was using $200.
Yeah, let me do some back at envelope. I did back at the envelope for 5 and 10.
The 20 year, if we're using people's fully loaded rate, would come out to 2.5 weeks
That's what I was gonna say.
at the 20 year, and then
Yeah, it's about 3-ish days at the 5, give or take.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of time, not what we were talking about previous.
Yeah, and we know based on, if you cost this, it's 0 right now. And because there's, baby, do we got anybody that can? Anybody there?
Next, I think it's gonna be 2 years before people hit
Yeah,
the
so
5, and I think we've got like
I just think the cost factor is not going to be built into. There is going to be, perhaps if somebody's gone, you're going to have to get somebody sub. So there may be cost if you have to find somebody. But there may be overtime because of some of the workload.
and typically, I mean, just because it adds to their vacation bank, they still have to get their vacation. So we
Yeah.
work with
And
it.
that's the right thing.
And that's at the discretion of the guy that now holds Christmas Eve in his hand.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Power, yeah. Well, I like this concept. I certainly don't have any problems with the numbers.
Want to leave it as presented there or revise it back to the current percentages, but the yearly rate, drop it again a few hundred.
Yeah, proposed.
Excellent. And then the last one, that was a bit of discussion, dress and appearance. So we're doing this for two reasons. One, in March of 2020, when we essentially call it closed our doors, even though we were still open, we allowed staff to dress a little more casually, not the business formal or business casual, but kind of casual, you know, nice jeans, you know, top or, you know, sweater kind of thing. If they didn't talk to the public a lot, maybe even a Darth Vader t-shirt, how the person's mood was that day, you stayed out of their office. Dead-eyed choking thing. I kid, sort of.
I saw how he looked at me.
Pieces, there are new state laws that were in place to essentially accommodate and mandate people have hairstyles and other dress that's ethnic, cultural, religious, that you must accommodate those. And we want to do that. We also need to be professional and have that, you know, bit of confidence for people. And so the craft code, I don't think I kept the language in the presentation. You have it in front of you. I changed it a little bit from the last presentation, but still it talks about you're not wearing your sweats, your gym attire, still needs to be professional, still needs to follow all city policies. So maybe, you know, while Darth Vader is fine, other symbols or characters, you know, are not. And then certainly there's exemptions for safety sensitive stuff to wear all their safety gear materials, and then events, workshops, public meetings, public hearings, conferences, the attire is dictated by that event, not necessarily or in the office that day. If there's something else you need to dress up, expected to dress up a bit. So again, we're not really proposing anything new or different than what we've been doing the couple of years. To relieve any concerns people have about what are people wearing. So anyone that's come into the office the past 2 years, that's what we're talking about.
So if Darth Vader ever joins a political party and then no longer be allowed.
No, I mean, we're with the Rebel Alliance here anyway, and so.
A trade federation fan.
I guess that did raise one question. So when James was giving his presentation, wasn't he in gym attire?
No, he wore
James, he was in a
Yeah,
suit.
isn't that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He was in his attire.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Long way to get to a meager. Better audience, it wasn't quite as much work.
Were there any comments at all over the past 2 years for people that came in and said, "Ooh, aren't you looking a little casual today?"
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's been no comments either from customers or guests. There's been no comments or concerns from the team about other team members. Really, it's been a lot of appreciation to be a little more comfortable at work.
And then, when we talked earlier, when we were reflecting on Happy about how it's the help and information center, and we wanted it to be exactly that simple. When you need help, this is where you could come. And that's because we wanted to meet people where they're at. And I doubt we get too many people in coat and tie dropping in to ask about their water bill.
Not unless you're trying to sell us something.
Yeah, and then, of course, Jeff's firm, none of the four of us would be dressed for casual Friday even, and yes, and so.
Well, I don't know about that.
I just started a new job where they said, yeah, you got to wear a collared shirt and trousers. So you set a good for the students. The political face of this.
Well, and that was part of it in the language. It talks about just reflecting the community and again, essentially those barriers. If you see someone, if I were to greet someone at the front desk, forgive my stature and general look, but I could be intimidating as seen as, an official or an authority. And really, we're here to serve the people. Want to do that in a comfortable manner, as well as let our team reflect their authentic and best selves.
Well, and again, set it in policy so everyone knows expected of them. But another thing that in my mind.
Well, and I essentially did that without asking. And now I'm asking to codify it. It hasn't been an issue. It seems to be working really well for the team. No issues from the community. Again, still boxing it in that, look, it's one thing when we're in the office. It's another if you're going to go out and represent a conference or an event or another public thing where there will be the expectation that you're dressed up a little differently.
And, maybe we had some language.
About Darth Maul?
You have, I think.
Jar Jar.
No, I'm a prequels, pre-book type of guy. As far as I'm concerned, there's only been.
Oh, yeah.
Being professional is have to have a conversation.
And again, everyone's respected I'll call it the informal boundaries of what professional is. Excellent. So then 360 for inclement weather. Again, it just specifies that work from home is an option because before it was either you come in or you take a vacation day. Now there's a third option of work from home, and that was utilized last month during the snow event after the holiday. Was it after or before? It was after the holiday season, where some people stayed home, worked from home, still had all the phone capacities that people calling in assumed they were here. City Hall was still open thanks to some dedicated other team members. So we still had operations here for walk-ins, but then the full array of services was still available.
I was a little kid. I always wanted to live in Corbett. And nobody in my family at that point in time knew where it was. You were Washington. But when you turn on the radio or the scroll on the TV,
It was always closed.
Corbett was always closed. So, but now even schools are talking about that, how gotten to the point where distance learning, while maybe optimal, is functional. There would be. So I'm wondering if we want to take the vagary out of this. Come to work, or if it's not safe for you to come to work from home.
I mean, it is inclement weather, so it can include more than just
Right,
snow.
ice
There's
events.
ice, flood, other kinds of.
Well, and I think limitation would be, of course, if you.
Or, power outage, if there's a big ice event.
Or
and
you had
there's-
to evacuate. Then I think at that point in time, you even consider charging people.
Well, and that's the thing. So for example, let's just say there's a big ice event and we lose power here. People can't remote into here. So there actually is no work from home for them. And that is where in the policy, it says the mayor or designee chooses whether or not to close City Hall. And, we took the council policy from, probably 5 or 6 years ago, where council at that time said City Hall is never closed. That's actually what we've been operating since that time, where we've been open, our neighbors haven't. And luckily with now this work from home, it gives some staff some other options that they don't have to burn a vacation day because they don't feel safe coming into work. They can still do their work, give value, serve the community, and not like they're risking driving in, nasty condition. But barring some kind of other event, you can still actually close City Hall. Or you could punt to me again and then put it all on, give the heat to me.
Oh, no, there's a couple of things in the charter thing,
All right, so that is it. I forgot to actually add the motion.
Yeah, need a
Apologize. Yeah, so
motion.
this is a resolution, so
I would move to approve resolution 3-2022, updating the city's personnel policies.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
thank you
Thank
very
you, Greg.
much.
Yeah.
And agenda item number 6 is a discussion of the homelessness forum that we had on the 18th. Thank Councilor Minor for coming. We had it a partnership of myself, Councilor Wendy Lawton from Fairview, Councilor Sandy Glantz from Troutdale, and Councilor Rios Campos, where we acted as the hosts. And we recruited a board of presenters, service providers, and elected people, or just invited the elected officials in the audience. Varnished, homeless in our area, why they're homeless in our area, what are the obstacles that prevent them from being homed, and then what are some of the sort of emergency or temporary themselves of prior to being homed in our region. Wanted to have that discussion, particularly because there are a lot more dollars available now than ever, but not very many sort of imaginative solutions, kind of the way we've always done it, which hasn't worked yet. And so the panel was Senate Asbo from the Hope team, Fry from the Reynolds School District. She's their Andy Miller, executive director of, and we had also had recruited El Programa Hispano, Karen Carrillo. Had to withdraw, but she would have reflected basically in the discussions that I had with them, how homeless proportionally in color, and then also the fighting in our community, obstacles that they saw. What I most appreciated about it was all three people reflected on the fact that when the folks who are homeless in our three cities homed, they lived in our three. Part of the debate about how people should be served, should they be served where they lived, or can they be shipped out of a region services somewhere else in our, all of the hosts, Councilor Rios Campos, but all of the hosts should be served where network is, where they are working. It's kids, it's where their kids are. Essentially, they match up sort of to every function of being one of the people that lives in our city. They just don't. Hope team was able to reflect on quantity of homelessness, character of those homeless folks, camping. Talked about, well, camping is not optimal, that the more discreet it is, better. And don't normally see it. Shelter and ultimately Molly was vital to the discussion, because I think that when they reflect on what they see Portland, sidewalk, and they never think about the student. Dr. Scari's student at community college, food insecure, and Molly had, I think, 700 now, and
And the shocking thing is she told us what it was about 10 or so years ago, dramatically lower than it is today.
reflected on one family. Her quote was that the mom, heaven and earth to get her. But their opportunity to, west side, Tiger.
Tiger to Tualatin area, yeah.
So they're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, public transit. School districts, when you register there, they are responsible for it. They're actually also supposed to track you if you move. And, average daily facilitate in order to get school funds as well. And part of the Reynolds budget is cab fare and bus fare for homeless people. Children are registered in the Reynolds district, but their hotel voucher is in Portland. Cost that everyone bears, child or student homelessness as well. And Andy talked about the services that Human Solutions provides, but also, housing first model, how that ought to be what we adopt, as instead of, get clean or get the right meds, or get a job in order to house, get a stable, safe and every night so that you can get clean and get care. But he also talked about not only quantity of homeless, like all of them did, but the amount of people that had availed themselves of services in East. And it was about 26,000 people, some sort of intervention because they were homeless or to keep them. And if just 2% more of those people were homeless, double our homeless numbers. It appears as though, with 26,000 people being able to service, that services we provide are, kind of know how to get to them. They're just not enough to create housing for people, solve some of the problems. And so wanted the only participation from the electeds was to, like I say, to hear the questions. And I think Metro Councilor Craddock was on the call. I failed to acknowledge him. I acknowledged that, but as it turns out, Senator Gorsuch was. Senator Hudson. Staff were on the call. County Commissioner Stegman and her staff. Ross, Senior Policy Advisor, was on the call. Mayor Lauer and Councilor Caswell from Tri. I've watched the broadcast on the city's YouTube. Question and answer. Asked or answered because it's not yet heard from any that route, but I have watched it. That gave the service providers their idea of what services need to be.
Mayor, is that something the, as they're out and about and contact people, is how could we best serve you? Is that a
Yes.
question they do ask?
Question they do ask, and by that information. And the Hope team has actually been expanded. Drug and alcohol counselor. We've heard it before when we've had the Hope team present some of the obstacles. One is transportation. Or, if they're on the east. By that, our cities scared of the Portland homeless. Like counseling appointments. Said to anyone that would listen that the services actually starting to sort of feel bad. A statistical way to, and so 11 projects, Gresham and Fairview, Troutdale. 7 of them have, and of those 7, the largest property. Bad thing about really thought it was impactful. Concerted effort to look at what
For me, I think the biggest push on my end was just the ones that we don't see. And so really highlighting the students, I think was a huge point that was my emphasis. And how this affects, how homelessness affects the effect of it is different culturally as well. Just knowing and understanding that in my culture, sometimes by generations, family living, that yes, they might have a roof to sleep under, but it's not per se theirs. And so homeless and that nature. And I wish gotten from El Programa Hispano would have been able to testify and share their experience, but I know there are current members that are, you know, in the Hispanic culture that are houseless, but that don't qualify for services. Pay taxes, they just do all the citizen stuff, but they just aren't eligible for that impact there. But the students one, I mean, it's eye-opening, but it's real that we reside in. So that
human had to be the people to it's not a Hope team in particular finally got to tell their story.
There's, you know, I'll say a few things, okay. I'm not gonna reiterate everything that was said there, all right, because about that, the Outlook did an article today, revisited what night was about. I think people need to continue to hear facts, but they also need to hear the anecdotals, the experiences. So, Mayor, if the group is looking at a next forum, I think the lived experiences are going to be real important. I still hear people contradict the facts. I mean, ignore them or they're not true. That's not what they have heard. And we're going to hear that. But I think we have to keep talking about those and the conversations. The conversation is going to have to continue. So I really support the thought that the next one would be lived experiences for people. I think the Hope team, point of the spear here, probably know it better than anybody, where they're living and what that looks like. The schools have real solid information and have for years. So I think I'd like to see some more of that. Man, I got a question, but just back to the information that night. I thought it was good. I thought that the panel was a nice mix. El Programa, I know, you know, couldn't get there, but there was it was a nice mix. We had the audience, dozen or so in person, I think. There were some questions there. I learned, and I didn't know this, that we have on 181st, 170 unit facility there from
Rockwood CDC.
CDC, bad catch.
Yeah, didn't know that. So I learned something there for sure. So, you know, I think it was a good showing, and I think the mix of the presenters did a nice job. There is the tension between human, but they're trying to, their goal, permanent housing, and others that, and it's a good tension because we need to be doing both of those. We need some temporary shelters. We need some small cottages, small villages, et cetera. And we need permanent, affordable housing. So I think well, I will, this is unrelated. So anyway, there was my comments on that. I thought it was a good, well done panel. I do have a question. We had representatives from Fairview, had representatives from Troutdale. Do the three councils not want to participate in that? Or is it that we haven't got there where the three councils, the three cities, can host a type of panel like that? I do know some of the politics, right? But I do think we need to continue to engage the three cities and try to get them, their leadership also to at least engage in the conversations. So that would be the only, hopefully that may happen. It may happen through more education, more awareness. But I would like to see us move forward. I'd like to see what you're suggesting, Mayor. We host it, that's fine. If Troutdale wants to host it, if Fairview wants to host it, I think we should continue to try to make this, bring in, get some more people under the tent each time we do that. Yeah. That's not a criticism at all.
No, and I don't,
It's an aspiration.
aspiration. I think you're absolutely right. That we currently have. Necessarily insurmountable. Things that we all don't know. Have these forums, there's an opportunity realize what it is that they don't.
Well, I was pleased that
I'd rather
Mayor
change minds by having them have those aha moments because we provide the opportunity for them as opposed to trying.
Yeah, no, it is not going to work that way. But I was pleased that the Troutdale mayor was here, was online. And so anyway, those are my comments. Here's something unrelated to that. My experience that night. Guys, I think we got to think about this. It's about this facility. You're sitting back there. There are people in front of you. You can't see people up here. And it is, so I want us to think about that because we don't have a lot of people here, obviously, most of the time. But if we intend to use this forum here, where I was sitting there, I couldn't see, I could move around and see them. But we need to consider that. And we have, as we live in this building more, and as we think about what, there's never been a building built that's perfect until you move into it. And then you got to start living in it and experiencing it. So when we built the building, talked about some, we're going to live in it for a while. Talked about a wall there, portable wall there. I think this dais, at some point, we're going to have large groups here. This has got to be raised so that the audience can see who's talking and the audience can make eye contact. The folks that are up here. I think that's, it was a little disconcerting. I mean, and I know again, I'm putting it on a list in my head of what's working here and what isn't. And as the staff lives here, thinks about what we could do to improve this for everybody. And everybody is the people out there. And so I'm putting that on the table just for later discussions, but that was my experience. And my wife was the first one to tell me, says, I can't see anybody. And it's hard to hear them. I can't see them. And then I'm sitting there, I'm a little bit taller, but she had somebody sitting in front of her. So anyway, that's for another discussion, but I think the presentation, well done. I like what you're, Scott, what you're talking to the team about. Think about it in terms of that. So, and you know, people telling their own stories, you got to be a little careful because it can go on. And, but every person out there has a little. And I think, you know, 4 or 5.
Was one technological issue happening when questions were asked by an audience member. Couldn't hear the question.
Already on order.
And so we will add a, you know, a hand. to the equation.
Actually, we're adding 2.
And I don't just hard to see from consider the dais, you know, we built it. Higher as potential. Higher instead of the council.
You know, I know we had that discussion. I don't believe in public meeting building that people are immediately offended or feel like you're less than transparent or that you're less than. I just don't really think that is such an issue for a public meeting, for a building that is a public building. I think they expect to see the people that are talking.
The other idea behind this particular dais, which matched the old one in its thought, is it's used for a lot of different purposes. And again, if you're trying to hold like a formal dinner party, family event, and this is your banquet table or head table, you know, having elevated components makes that more difficult. Not that we can't explore options for better visibility in the future.
You know, I'm not suggesting we solve this right now. I think we all got to think about it. But I put it under this big tent of, as we use this building, let's not be afraid to say if something's not working.
You know, we
And
had
didn't
talked.
quite get something figured out right, and
You know,
we
there
need to-
hit the dais, you know, especially if there's people you didn't like, you just, you know, hit the button and rise above them. Like that.
So there's a lot of solutions to this.
Joke, but.
There's places out there you could move people's chairs around.
And then if I could speak just a minute on, I'll call it the city manager side of all these discussions, where there may be differences in means and methods of, you know, helping the homeless, houseless, and maybe even the why. What I can say is we are all 100% in alignment that there are not enough services. The services here are, I was going to say a bad word. There's not enough here, and that there's a means and methods through the joint office that we are not getting results from. And so we are doing everything but essentially kicking down their door, demanding things be brought this way. It's in learning more about the joint office, and again, trying to think good of our community partners. They went from a very tiny office from Multnomah County and an IGF Portland to handling this massive responsibility. So when they've got this influx of new cash and now additional responsibilities, it does take time to spin that up in a responsible, effective manner. And we're also not letting that be a reason why you can't tick off some of these things, especially in East County, where the issue is very different than Portland. That can, you know, create some early wins, not just for communities, but for the people. Why aren't they doing those things? And there's a collective frustration, but we are 100% alignment that we need more resources for the people here.
Yeah, Greg, and I appreciate that because I know the city managers, you know, and the mayors are all, and I know any of us that are just, you know, we hear Metro. I mean, and I'm not here at all to beat up on Metro or anybody else.
Metro's actually out of the game on this one.
But they are, you know, we have got to move the dollars and get them out on the street And we just have to keep pushing on that. So anyway, good panel, I think. I mean, talk more, continue. I don't see them happening like,
Well, and I would say I don't necessarily view them rotating. Broadcasting it from here.
and proud that we took the initiative. Proud that we did. Next, somebody will come up in one of the cities. Anyway. Oh, I gotta go.
Let me get
Would
you.
you-
All right. Well, I think that, we've made the relevant points and that, it's clear that we need to do more of this and that we can go ahead and move on. And so we'll move on to the Public Works Director's report with John.
Mayor, city councilors, this is your 2021 Public Works recap. In your council packet, you had about a 3-page document that listed all the projects, listed our staff. It was a productive year. This anticipation of 2022, you're going to get pretty much the same production. Not a lot of huge capital projects as far as water and sewer. We're working on our master plans for water and sewer. As you know, you approved the appropriations. Actually have have Keller under contract. We also have the SDC and rate folks on board too. And so this 2022 is more, again, just keep our system functioning, operating properly. And then once we get that master plans, then we'll look at the 1 to 5 year capital projects, maybe some replacements in there. That's a big value on, lift stations and wells. And then look at the 5 to 10 years. But I really just wanted to recap 2020. And it, two snow ice events were in there. One was February and the other one was right after Christmas. Everything from staff. I mean, saw in the report, our staff, which is that's our public works staff. I mean, the longest tenured public works staff member is 3+ years. So retaining these staff is important. As certs, they get more certs, get more experience. Had the permit tech of the year for the state of Oregon. Again, retaining the important as they gain valuable experience here and provide excellent customer service. I don't want to forget about the city manager, finance director, and the finance staff, because we could produce all the water in the world, which we did produce 171 million gallons, which was the most that the city's ever produced. But if we can't bill them properly, what good is it? So it's not just the public works team I wanted to recognize tonight, but in the report, I did go through the public works staff and a lot of the public works projects, but it's the entire team, from the city manager, the assistant to the city manager, finance director, the finance team, public works team. It takes everybody to produce this list. I just happen to be the one presenting. So, but it takes all 15 team members get this work completed. I did want to touch a little bit, water production went up. Did a comparison of 2020. But we also introduced 172 multifamily units to our system, and a salon, which was the old Goodyear. Compare water usage there, Goodyear to a salon, and went from AAA to Bellagio's. So again, the businesses that are coming in, multifamily units that came, that's where you're getting that huge. I believe the system loss was average January to December was about 7%. We do have an anomaly every December for the last 3 years. Our system loss has gone up. Don't know why. Yeah.
I say watery reindeer.
But no, I just really wanted to recognize the staff, not just Public Works. It takes the whole team to get these list of projects, but a little bit of 5 center line miles, 12 plus miles of water distribution pipe, 120 fire hydrants that we flush and maintain throughout the year, 366 water valves. You wonder what the little valves are at each intersection. That's what they are. I mean, our guy, we have to maintain them. And the staff does a great job. Permits to inspections, code compliance, our community leaf drop program. Staff, Public Works staff has to clean that up. But it's a service we provide. And 223 shopping carts. You got to keep track of shopping carts.
Absolutely.
Again,
That is-
so
That's a good metric right there.
hey, Wood Village Boulevard, Arata Road, looks good for you when you go out for your.
And I'm serious about that as a metric. It's a metric that everybody, they don't know the metric, but they do know when shopping carts are picked up.
Well, if I could add a quick, just anecdotal story to that. So last week, I mean, with Cultivate Initiatives for right-of-way cleanup and help, and we're walking Halsey. I point out some shopping carts and explain, our crew goes around as they can, picks them up, returns them, et cetera. So walk down Halsey, down Errata, come back around. By the time we came back around, about half hour later, shopping carts were already picked up. They couldn't believe it. They said they never heard of something like that happening.
John, I'm just gonna come, I didn't hear the first part of it. But your staff, within, I'd say 24 hours, had a stop sign replaced on Wood Village Boulevard. And
Riverwood.
is that
Riverwood.
Riverwood?
It
Yeah,
was
right there on that
two.
corner. We walked it this morning and, there it was. And within 24 hours,
Yep.
might be less.
2 hours,
What was it?
2 hours.
I left, I dropped off my kid and I came back and
That's
it was
fine.
already put back.
So it was right, yeah. Well, you broke the record, 2 hours. But nice job. I mean, really, that's responsive.
And that's really, that's my report. It's really about the team. I did provide you, 3 pages of projects that were completed, a little synopsis of our staff. If you have any questions, feel free. Other than that, we're looking forward to 2022 and
Last year, did we have the incentive pay?
Not in 21.
Okay, the only reason I asked is because, I was looking at water valves, all need to be exercised, and valve exerciser was by a staff member, and
Right.
got the cash award for
I will say it's part of every new team member orientation though. I mean, John and they can all attest that I actually have a whole separate piece just on, process reengineering and making sure what we look at, what we do and do it most efficiently and effectively. And I point out, if you do that, it's not just benefiting the community organization. We give you a percentage of those savings up to $5,000. And it's so we let everyone know it exists.
part of the onboarding and throughout the year, bring it up at all staffs, but also too, in the director's report, there were highlighted items. I don't know if you saw, those are somehow related to the APP. A lot of items on there that we're working on. We didn't get them all, but we got the majority of them, or they're in progress.
Just a quick question. Did you guys put the bridge back up? I saw a couple.
We did.
Saw a couple
We
folks
did.
working on that today, so
Yes.
that's
We
amazing.
did. It's
It-
new
it
and improved.
Finally came in last week, which is why we paid for it. It did come in. So yeah,
I signed the check the other day. Well, and just, thank you, John, and congratulations once again to Erica on permit tech. Congratulations to all of our guys that picked. I know we started better and recognition they deserve.
Thanks, John.
Finance Director's report with Seth.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Finance Director's report for month ended December 31st. Packet. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Our property tax revenues are mostly in. They're have increased about 6% compared to last year, which is in projections. Business income taxes are down a little bit, but that's because of the influx that we got last summer due to some postponement due to the COVID-19 outbreak started. Other than that, our bank balances increased. Property tax payments. Personnel services are typically a little higher than we normally see, but we haven't had any vacancies this year. And staff's noticing that those are really close. It's because we been at full staff for the last few months and had one vacancy. So the other thing that I'll point out is in your report that the capital project, capital outlay by project is included in there. So you should be able to get a sense of where capital projects, all the ones that we had, that John had in the fall, wrapped up and we're gearing up. John was out last week and we were out in our management team meeting trying to spend money, and it was actually a lot harder than we all realized. And so there to get us through. So, and I want to thank John for his kind words for the finance team and just working together to make sure that we're providing. Some of us aren't out in front and replacing bridges or the goal here at the city really is providing excellent service. And so with that, I would take any questions you have from board.
No questions. Thanks, Seth.
Councilor Minor?
No questions.
Just one quick question. I know we have the utility fund kind of up and going, and just kind of wanted to see, not an exact number, but how do you see that being utilized, and is it being utilized?
We will be giving, so we were going to run that and give you an update as of January 31st.
Okay.
We also process that through as part of our monthly bank reconciliation statement. Off the top of my head, I would say that we're somewhere between 20 and 25,000 over 3 months. That might be on the high end, but we're somewhere in that range. And that was of the 80 that we had allocated, you all had allocated out of the ARPA funding. So you'll get a full workup and we're kind of the statistics on who applied, how many months behind they were, which utilities that it went for. And it still is predominantly PGE or the big bills. And we want to do that analysis because we are, and we've advertised this in our newsletter, we are starting back up late fees next month, and then shutoffs would happen in March. And so we're another push with the accounts, especially for the public utilities that are more than 2 months past due, to make sure to get them to apply. And we'll probably end up doing phone calls.
And one thing we are doing with the notices, we're actually changed it to saying, you would have been shut off, but we're suspending that. Please, apply to this program. We don't get a lot from that. We actually get some people saying, I want to do a payment plan and not actually apply to the program. So it's a little interesting, but it goes back to that pride and willingness to, pay your own way. But we do see, every couple of weeks, a new person apply, which is fantastic. We also have some regulars that apply, but their financial condition hasn't changed. We have some verification pieces that we do, and they're still in need as they were last month or 2 months ago. So
I want to say out of the probably 40 or 50 applications we've gotten, there have only been, we've done one income verification that wasn't on the list. So we have more documentation that you can submit. There's been 2 or 3 where they've applied for the program, but are kind of in a pending or holding status and don't actually have their card or official paperwork. But we worked with it. At least something from them to show that they've applied and that they're just kind of waiting for some other program to cycle them through and get them their paperwork. One person was a phone verification to try to be flexible in documentation that we're asking from people. And so far, we haven't had anyone, I believe, apply and then when asked, follow up on the income verification, say, thanks, but no thanks. Everyone's been more than to work with us on that.
Well, I appreciate that because that does, speak volume of your guys' flexibility, like you said, phone calls, so adapting to the need and kind of just meeting where people are at. So I really appreciate that.
Well, if you do the math, talked about top of your head about what was.
yeah, I mean, hopefully COVID doesn't do any more damage than what it's kind of doing right now with the Omicron variant. Hopefully it kind of settles down. Things can kind of start to recover and people getting other opportunities. Kids can be in school, so parents can, go back to work on a regular schedule. Other, positions will open up. People feel comfortable kind of doing some of those things again and get back on their feet. I mean, hopefully that's the base case scenario, that we've helped them weather the storm and then we can start kind of building back up.
You guys are interested, we look at all, I think, come in and get a lot of circumstance hardship, just not necessarily people out of work long-term, but like Greg said, some sort of circumstances come up where they had to cut back hours because of putting together some of what we've gotten from the applications for those. A lot of people keep it pretty short, but we could scrub that and kind of make it that information when we do.
Well, that's also great that you guys are able to gather the information you all need to, report back. And so again, just speaks tremendous of your guys' flexibility and serving the community.
And we're seeing applications throughout the whole residential areas. I mean, from Riverwood, Original Village, the kind of denser residential areas. I mean, we're seeing, not a lot from Upper, which is to be expected, but from everywhere else. I mean, it's kind of just evenly.
I want to apologize. Dr. Scary mentioned in the chat that during some of the presentation on the homelessness and recently that I was hard to hear, and that's because the battery's gone dead. So.
And those are pretty fresh batteries too.
Yeah.
Drains them pretty good.
There, it's back. I touched something and it turned green. That's all right. But I'll try to be closer to the mic for the rest of the way. All right. Thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Seth.
And then next up is City Manager's report with Greg.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Want to take a few minutes and do kind of a 6-month update on the APP. We will go over this again in another month or so at your retreat, but wanted to highlight a few things now, opportunity to ask questions. So awesome news, if you saw in the weekly update, the motorhome tiny home code piece, Portland State, the team selected our project. So I'm meeting with them tomorrow to meet that project team, kind of go over the scope, outcomes, intent. So we'll be working on that between now and the end of the fiscal year period. So great there. Council Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Training. I had a meeting today with Tracy Simmons from our community college. Different than what we talked about 2 months ago with having a person talk about the whole Newburgh issue. This came on recommendation. She's been presenting to the Gresham Parks and Recreation Committee, highly recommended. So I spent some time with her today, and she has a concept and idea, trying to take your feedback. Like, we want, and we need things to do. Education background's great. We also need to know, what do we do as policy leaders? Came up with this approach called, essentially, how do you build your community's capacity? Essentially, organizational capacity, but as well as the people in the community. How do you lift them up to be, resilient, self-sustaining, and, achieve their lives? And it sounded very, very fascinating, talking about how you go about getting where the needs of the community are, actually mapping your organizational, strengths and assets, whether it's parks, programs, all this stuff. We can sit down and talk about it. It's not mapped, it's not documented anywhere. Then creating, finding out where are then the gaps, what are you doing, where are the needs, so where your future investments need to be. And within that, you talk about education, housing, all the stuff, but it creates kind of a framework for some stuff to do or think about or look at, especially as we're approaching the retreat, where we're going to talk about kind of a robust community outreach engagement effort. What kind of lenses can we use? That 2045 vision statement and concept plan, where is that going? So it seems to fit nicely within this general framework. And if you would like, I can try to set something up. It'd be about an hour and a half evening time with you all if you want to explore that kind of meeting. And I'll still be working with the Newburgh person, meeting with her next Friday to set that up. Essentially, how do you, in the face of adversity and values that may not reflect the community's best values, how do we stand fast with those? Is going to be what her and I are going to talk about in our approach to presenting that. So how does setting that first one up sound to you all? Is that what you're looking, more of what you're looking for?
I think so. Action items.
Yeah, and I think based on, certainly valuable.
And she says she likes to be, interactive and, asking questions, and very much not a non-lecture.
Tell Newburgh, it may be still worthwhile, but local right now.
Perfect. I'll send out some date options then in an email tomorrow or Thursday, and then we'll start to just narrow that in to make sure, try to make it in person as much as possible. House Bill 2001 code update. Oh, sorry. Got our initial comments back from MIG. So a lot of it relates to lot sizing around townhomes. The state has its standard for 1,500 square feet. I was getting confused of what that really meant. So working through those revisions to finally do one more setback to MIG to do hopefully a joint session with council planning end of February, early March time. So they roll it to adoption. One thing that was pointed out is we still retained in the code everything now would have to go to the design review board. MIG says that DLCD will probably reject our code if that's the case, because the standards have to be clear and objective. Those standards are already now going to be in the code itself. So it's essentially, did they do it? You check the box. That's administrative. They say have them go through design review. That could be seen as another obstacle and barrier. So it's not that there can't be design review standards such as pitched roofs, porch features, windows, etc., as allowed by the new law. Making them go through design review board is seen as an obstacle, and DLCD would probably reject it. And that's the other piece of this deal. Once we are done with our process and adopt it, DLCD has to approve it.
Saying that cities aren't going to have design review boards?
For residential. For anything, lower density and, that middle housing. For large apartment complexes, basically anything 4 or more units is a way to think about it. You can still keep design review and commercial. We got commercial mixed use or larger density residential, but single family and middle.
And forgive me if I interpreted something wrong when you and I had the discussion about this in our regular Friday meeting this past Friday, or Thursday night, actually. We can maintain the checklist though, right?
Yes, we can have the checklist where it has, on front facing lots, thou shalt have, 5 out of the 8 things, porch feature that meets this, a dormer feature, pitched roof feature. You can.
Doesn't have to go in front of the body. It doesn't have to go in front of the body.
Correct. It would basically, they would turn in their application to us like so a single family home right now just comes to us. And we basically check for lot coverage, setbacks, et cetera. Now we would actually add some, okay, yep, they've done the roof, they've done the porch, they've got windows, and then it goes right to permit. So there's still design elements. It just doesn't go to the design review board. Statute. Then you had your update on municipal code. So again, you'll get part 2 in a couple of weeks. Safer, kind of, it is what it is right now. We're having a Forest City user board meeting tomorrow. May or may not get an update. Latest buzz is Safer may kick up later spring, first part of summertime as City of Gresham's going through their kind of priority process. Good news on the BOAC intergovernmental agreement updates. Just the other week, they've essentially released it for entities to adopt. Seth, as chair of the BOAC user board, has said, yep, it meets the intent. So I believe we have it scheduled for the first meeting in March in front of you all. And as a side note on BOAC, there was a meeting last week. Seth attended. I just looked at the highlights. They are making incremental progress. As they said, they were a few months ago, trying to hire new people, do new processes. That is occurring. So we are seeing improvement, but hold times for 911 are still averaging about a minute. Non-emergency is still kind of roll the dice. So they're not saying everything's fixed. As said, it's going to take a couple of years to the hiring, the training, the rollout, all the stuff, but we are seeing progress. They're doing the work.
Where did the 311 potential adoption come down?
So they are, the update on 311 is they are going to have the program manager for the 311 program give an update at the user board at our April meeting. And at that point, they should have promotional materials and some information that then we can disseminate through our newsletter, any of our channels to get people aware of that program. The other updates were the automatic callback feature and the alarm callback features are still on track for deployment before the summer season. So they're hopeful that between those 3 things, summer wait times, which is when the call volume escalates, will be better this year than they were last year.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a bunch of awesome events and been well briefed on those. Our utility and SEC rate assessment as well as master plans had our kickoff meeting last week. So the next 90 days are going to be essentially us sending them a whole ton of information. So we got our list of stuff they need. They're going to take a long time with that. But we're really excited about, I think the end products we're going to get out of this are going to guide us for the next decade, if not, setting up for success over the next 20 years. Sports field is going to be fertilized tomorrow. So kind of fertilizing, and then we have it scheduled for springtime, another whole refurbishment treatment with over everything. So on track, doing great things there. No work yet on franchise fee piece yet. That's okay. It's kind of pending. We'll get an update here probably end of February, early March on our economic development strategies for BIPOC and disadvantaged communities and what we've settled on, because a lot of the existing programs that exist kind of at a federal level are kind of harder to digest. We're going to do something like we did with that resource guide for the community. We're going to do a similar idea, but for, businesses, like here are places you can go to, either get help with a business plan or lending or management, basically making it very easy for a person either was a struggling business or wanting to do a new business. Where are the resources they could go for more help? James is working that, going to present that to you. Going down to goal 8 for the TGM Main Street on Halsey, that is held up at ODOT. All I really know, there's a Main Street on Halsey meeting tomorrow. We may get some more insight and clarity on what the issue is, but from my understanding, we have all the consultants selected, all the other components were finalized back in June. So Troutdale's admitting this. There seems to be a lot of frustration from Troutdale as not getting information of why isn't this rolling? But that's where that one is. Hopefully kick off branding here in the next month or two. Halsey's still moving forward, just a little bit slower. John gives all the ons give updates on Counselor Minor and John, give updates on that as well as the soil water quality. As I mentioned in the weekly update and just a little bit ago, met with Cultivate Initiatives to help with our long-term strategy for right-of-way maintenance. So they're putting together a scope of work right now. And I've even kind of pitched it to the county and our representative to look at this as workforce training for the, either currently unhomed or recently unhomed or other, in need individuals, and get state funding to actually help run these programs. So it'd be less of a cost for cities to utilize it, cities or counties, but getting the same service in terms of mowing, brush clearing, graffiti removal, all that good stuff. When we met with the field team, they were very enthusiastic about this. Even had them look at our 238th islands and doing the work instead of the landscape company that we currently have. And there's a lot of excitement. So hopefully we can get some things rolling. We don't have a price tag yet, but again, we're actually looking at then additional funding sources as seen as a workforce development program. We'll get an update on our community involvement strategies. Again, James has been working on that with M and actually trying to break down. So there's a spectrum of community involvement. So we've used that spectrum to kind of put things in buckets or categories, what we do that fulfills those or things that we could do to fulfill those, to allow you as a council to say, wow, if we want to do these things, here are some components we can do that with. And so we're kind of break it down into, like I said, functional. I've seen a lot of charts and graphs. It looks pretty cool. So you'll get an update on that in the next few meetings here. Community Wi-Fi. The county has a new community connectivity coordinator. And I met with her a couple times, and we think a fixed wireless solution is actually what could work for what we're trying to do about expanding Wi-Fi networks in target areas around the city, where the hub would essentially be at City Hall. And then we have repeaters down corridors that we want, and those repeaters could be in the Telebelly, which is a smart garbage can. So we don't not only be adding garbage receptacles to some of our streets, it helps boost the Wi-Fi signal. Having James explore some of those options and costs too. And just again, want to give a shout out to M because she really helped set up all the streaming stuff with the Zoom and all that. And that's been working exceptionally well since the fall time. That is the AP in a nutshell. What questions you have about that or else you've heard about going on in the city?
Council President Nissen?
No question.
Councilor Minor?
Questions?
Councilor.
Yeah, and maybe you guys, James has already explored this, but on the economic development strategy for the BIPOC, maybe looking at Hacienda CDC as a source of training and support and things of that nature. So I know they
already, on the list again, like work source. Now, it's, like I said, it's going to be kind of like the other resource guide, but targeted to business folks. And again, also translated.
Yeah, and maybe even, as we move forward, getting more questions or comments from the community and maybe partnering with them to come do physical trainings here, I think would be a great opportunity. So
when a conversation I had with Tracy today and talking about, you made the comment at our other DEI training that, especially in the kind of Hispanic Latinx families, the kids are expected to kind of participate in the family business, and college isn't, part of that equation. So we were talking about how do you engage the youth, at the middle or high school levels to say, great, you're going to, go into this family business, whatever it is. And here's some other things you can do to build your skill sets to grow that business where then you're the managers overseeing stuff. You're not doing the hard work anymore. So a lot of excitement with that. And I think that'll be some of the things that we'll talk about with her at that upcoming training. But again, trying to create that pipeline for continuing education, that's positive, while building community resiliency, meeting the needs of, the people.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, Councilor. I don't have any questions, Greg. Thanks very much for
Much.
Jeff, do you have a city attorney's report?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
I
you.
do want to publicly thank Jeff for all his work with James. I mean, we've kind of bombarded him the last few weeks with, oh, what's this? What do we do with that? And just, it's
Thank you.
just very, very solid.
Greg hasn't gotten the bill yet, obviously. No, it was no trouble.
And then in terms of mayor and council reports, I'll just say that we had a Mount Hood Cable Regulatory Commission meeting last night. Negotiations with Comcast are ongoing for the new rights of way agreement. And we had the initial round of reviewing the community competitive grants of 14 that were submitted. Staff approved 13 to go to the review from the board. And so commissioners rated all those programs, and all of them actually have been passed through to the next level of consideration. It doesn't mean that they'll be funded necessarily, but now we take the preliminary application and do the deep dive with the applicant. They qualify on every level. And, just a reminder, we did change some of the qualifications to make sure that that there were certain diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that were being met when we funded a grant. Anybody else have anything to add?
I would like to add that on February 8th, Tuesday, February 8th, from 5 to closing, Play East is partnering up with McMinimans for a friend and family fundraising event where they will be donating half of their proceeds of that evening and donating them straight to Play East for expanding and growing their program. Great opportunity just to go have a nice dinner. To go orders, dine-in orders, all qualified. You don't have to say anything. You just have to go that day and purchase 5 to close at the power station at McMinimans.
And I saw that. Appreciate you reminding. Got it on my calendar. Is it an in-person deal? How you doing?
You can go in there, dine in, or you can order to go.
It's not an auction. It is an auction?
No, it's just just whatever you buy, they're giving half of.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a fundraiser separate from your annual auction.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But you can order to go.
Okay.
That includes, the only thing that is not included for that evening is sale of gift cards. So
Pots for everybody.
that's right.
Sale of what?
Gift cards.
Oh, gift cards.
Yeah, but to go orders, dine-in orders, everything qualifies.
Beer?
Qualifies.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, well then if nobody else has anything to add, we'll adjourn. Ready?
While you're driving down around the road the other day, and that